Good morning, everybody. I'm going to try my best to project. That's not my strong point. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your attention. I'm Monica Caruso. I'm the County Librarian here. And we've got some cookies in the back, and Ingrid Hayes, our adult services manager, is in the kitchen making coffee. So she will have that out shortly. It's early morning. Thank you for coming out in the rain and cold. So this event this morning is part of the year-long celebration of the 150th anniversary of the town of Boone. So I don't know if you've been keeping track, but you can check boone150.org for all of the different events. Of course, that website is changing all the time as things are added for the year, but we're getting there toward the end of the year now. But yeah, we still have a couple more talks. So just check that out, or you can check with us after, or we'll be open till 5, so you can always check with us in the library after the event to talk about the remaining events that will be here. Okay, so we're very honored to have 2 special guests this morning. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. First, we have Roberta Jackson on the left, to your right here. And she is the founder of the Junaluska Heritage Association, and that is a group dedicated to preserving the history of the Junaluska community here in Boone. She has been instrumental in numerous historical efforts and has worked closely with the organizations such as the Watauga County Historical Society and the Watauga to help shed light on the importance of the community. Along with her sister, Sandra Havler, Roberta worked tirelessly with the Boone Historic Preservation Commission and Town of Boone to acquire, document, and preserve the Boone Cemetery on Howard Street. She also was a key member of the initiative to attain the new historical marker in 2021 that commemorates the Junaluska community, which I don't know if everyone knows where that is, but it's right there. And was voted as High Country Woman of the Year in 2013 for work preserving mountain heritage. And on my right or left is Dr. Susan Keefe, and she is Emeritus Professor of Anthropology at App State and has done field work in Mexico, Barbados, among Mexican Americans and Anglo Americans in Southern California, as well as here at home in Western North Carolina. She is the author editor of several books and has published more than 40 academic articles and chapters. Dr. Keefe has recently received an award from the North Carolina Genealogical Society for Excellence for her work on the book, Junaluska: Oral Histories of an Appalachian of Black Appalachian Community, in which she worked closely with the community to compile and edit their oral history. So that is the book at hand that we're going to be talking about today. Now, I also wanted to mention that the book, which we have copies in the library too, copies in the collection, and we also have read and return copies. So hoping that they'll be returned to the library so we can share them with others. But this is the book here that we're talking about it here. Junaluska: Oral History of Black Appalachian. Also, this book was chosen this year as a Common Read selection for the Common Read program at App State for the incoming freshmen to read for this year. And it is their 25th anniversary of the Common Read program at App State. So, so you'll be back at the Schaefer Center September 20th in the evening at 7 o'clock. That's a free event for the community, and also the Junaluska Gospel Choir will be there as well. Okay, so please welcome Dr. Keefe and Roberta Jackson.
Thank you, Monica. Appreciate that introduction. So I have a few remarks here to make first, and then we have something to show you on the screen. And then Roberta has a few remarks. And Lynn, who came in and went out, but I think she's coming back. Roberta's daughter, Lynn Patterson, may have a few remarks she wants to make also. Roberta, as I think Monica mentioned, is the facilitator for the Junaluska Heritage Association, and has been for the last 10 years. And so she is our leader. And of course, the JHA is co-editor of the book with me. And all royalties go back to the Junaluska Heritage Association. So if you buy the book, you're making a donation to the community. So that's good to know. And I believe Lynn is coming back with some books that will be for sale at the back table. Possibly also some CDs of the Junaluska Gospel Choir. Did you find some? Yeah. So after this is over, you might want to check that out. Well, when we started this project 11 years ago, our goal was pretty simple. We wanted to help the Junaluska community uncover its history and the genealogical roots of its people. And these are no easy tasks for African Americans descended from slaves, whose names are rarely recorded in historical documents. So my job as an anthropologist was to assist the residents in recording their own life histories and then bringing them together in a way that illuminated the community's past. This was not an easy process. It did take a lot of time. It required spending a lot of time in the community over a period of years, gaining the trust of the residents, leading interviewer training and manuscript editing, and ultimately becoming a partner in their work. Now, we knew that the community members, and Junaluska is just located right up the street here, we knew that they had a great deal of interest in this work. These were people who were their relatives, their neighbors, their friends. And so, of course, they were engaged. But little did we know that the book would become a selected reading, as Monica mentioned, for the town and for the university, selling more than 6,000 copies, which is kind of unheard of. So the question is, or the question I have is, why? Why should our little book become so popular? Well, one reason I think is that it explores the African American experience in Southern Appalachia, a region best known for its white Scots-Irish residents, settlers, and their descendants. Little research has been produced on Black residents in the mountain, and whose experiences differ from African Americans elsewhere in the South. In Boone itself, few people in the area knew of Junaluska's existence prior to the publication of this book. In recognition of this research, our book was nominated for the Thomas Wolfe Memorial Literary Award, and it received an award of excellence from the North Carolina Genealogical Society because of the careful attention to genealogical relations of people in the book. So this project was begun in part to bring Junaluska visibility. And I think we can say we accomplished that. I believe another reason for the book's popularity was the timing of racial upheaval in the nation. Our book was published in 2020, the year that the Black Lives Matter movement exploded following the killing of George Floyd by a Minneapolis police officer. This and related events brought the African American experience to the public's attention, and there was increased interest in the local Black population in Boone. A final reason I think the book caught people's attention is that it presents a compelling chronicle of life in a small Black community spanning more than a century in the Mountain South. These are persistent people who have come through slavery and Jim Crow, discrimination and inequality, yet they reject hatred and violence. Backed by their Mennonite heritage, they instead express joy and humility and compassion and love. And above all, they have a strong, close-knit community, something most contemporary urban Americans must envy. So there is much to admire in their story. I've often thought there is a great movie to be made from this book. Perhaps someday that will come to pass. In the meantime, we put together a short video with voices and photographs from the community. And the audio in the video is from interviews conducted for the book. And I might say also that one person that I really have to credit for helping to put together this video is in the audience. Andrew, where are you? Andrew Rice. Did most of the technical work here. Why don't we show the video and then we'll let Roberta see.
Do you think you experienced any problems in growing up in a little mountain town?
No, I thought it was a wonderful childhood. I wouldn't exchange
You
my
have to start it.
childhood for anybody that I know of.
Right here?
It was, we
Yeah.
didn't realize we were poor. It just never occurred to us that we were. I guess because
Yeah.
we're so loved and we're so isolated. We were so isolated and protected.
Huh.
And with freedom to go all over our area, you
We
know.
didn't try the
There was
audio.
no restrictions. I don't think we
Let's see.
didn't play in
No, it's
upper
computer
Junaluska
audio
much.
trying to. Maybe it's.
We didn't go up that area. We stayed mainly.
Right
Yeah.
down here around the church,
Mhm.
this neighborhood.
There we go.
So that area up along
Yeah.
Junaluska Road, that upper area, does that have a name?
Start it over to.
Of course, yes.
Do you think you experienced any problems in growing up in a little mountain town?
No, I thought it was a wonderful childhood. I wouldn't exchange my childhood for anybody's that I know of. It was what we didn't realize we were
That's as
poor.
loud as it can go.
It just never occurred to us that we were. I guess because we're so loved and we're so isolated. We were so isolated and protected, and with freedom to go all over our area. You know, there was no restrictions there. I don't think we didn't play in upper Junaluska much. We didn't go up that area. We stayed mainly.
Right
Yeah.
down here around the church,
Mhm.
this neighborhood. So that area up along Junaluska Road, that upper area, does that have a name? Or do you refer to it as a different neighborhood?
The mountain.
The mountain.
So Junaluska was divided in the mountain, between the mountain and the hill. Hill. This is a hill and up there's the mountain.
Right.
That basically.
And who lived up on the mountain?
The Grimeses, the Goinses, a lot of the Hortons.
And did they have farms then? The ones that lived up there?
I think so. I think they did. And I remember some of the people from down here would have farms up there. Like Mr. Jones that were burned in the fire. He had his garden up in Junaluska somewhere.
I see.
I don't know. But yeah, more of them would have had access to farmland than we would. But I don't remember a lot of them having farms. when I was growing up. I remember Morris Hatton's mom they lived right out there, that big house. She had a cow. We bought milk from her. My mom did, and somebody else had chickens. She bought eggs from. But I don't remember any big gardens growing up because we didn't know anything about horses or cows or really anything of that nature. It's like we lived in the city and the others lived in the country, and we didn't.
And you were only a few blocks away
right.
from each other,
Right.
but you thought of it that way. So, do you know where they got their land originally?
Who, the black people?
Yeah, their farms up there.
I think now Reverend Horton. I remember asking him once about his father, where he got his land, and he said he worked it off. He worked the land for so long, and it was his. And I don't know why this Junaluska is here. That I've never been able to figure out. I think it was land, an area that blacks just started once they were free, and the ones that weren't free were just living here. And I think probably the whites just gave this area. But now most people have deeds to their land, so they did work and pay for it.
Right.
But I think it may have been designated, this is where we're going to put the black people.
Or anything like that.
I was not deprived, and anyone in the community, if one family had raised food or something like that, or they knew that maybe another family that was a little bit larger than theirs, they would, in the fall, they would can their stuff, and then they would give them part of it, or if they needed extra beans or corn or something for Sunday, they would just go in their freezer or refrigerator and just hand it out to them. We didn't.
Right.
I don't think anyone really was, in this community, was deprived of food. Now, as a matter of fact, there was Reverend Horton and his brother had a little store where you could go down and buy bread or mainly candy for the kids. And they had a little coal yard where you could go and get coal and ice. They had ice.
Right.
So we weren't deprived because, like I said, if someone in the community at that time, they would, okay, Mr. Ray or Miss Ray, Gene's going to be at my house, so he's going to be eating supper, And that relieved my mother and father because, like I said, he did mechanic helper work. Mama did housekeeping. She would go 2 or 3 places and clean people's homes and stuff. And
These are white people's homes.
Yes. Yeah.
And where was your father a mechanic?
He
What
worked
business?
at Lee Barnett Chevrolet. We would go, my mother would go to Belk's. They had another clothing store, which was Church's, Smithy's, where Rams Rack is now. We could go up there and get, shoes, clothes, just, like anyone else.
Right.
And at that time, they would, my father or mother they would let us run like an account or something. And we would, most of the time, our clothes were paid for when we bought them. But if the owners of the different stores knew your family or some of your relatives, then they would say, okay, you can get this on time, is what they would call it, and pay so much. And they were really good about letting you have clothes and stuff. Now, eating was a little bit different. You couldn't go in the front door. I can remember you did not go in the front door to get your food. You went to the back door unless, the owner knew, like my father, or knew someone else in the community. And they would say, okay, we've got, we're going to have plates today, come down, And they wouldn't, like I said, they wouldn't let us come in the front door. We would go in the back door, go to the back door.
So
and
this
get-
was in the 60s?
Yes. When we went to the movies, I hate to say it, but anyhow, we had one little lady that took up the money and stuff, and to see a movie was 50 cents then.
Right.
And we would take 50 pennies. And this little old lady, I've gotten whippings over that on how many times. She would sit there and count every penny, every one of those pennies, and the line would be just stretched down the street or whatever. But then, and at that time, we had to sit in the balcony.
What kind of games did you play as a child?
We played out in the fields and stuff, you know. Used to have a big sawdust pile right over here. We played in it. We used to walk up to Winkler's Creek, go swimming in the summertime. Used to walk up to the fire tower up here on way up on top of Junaluska up here, the fire tower. We used to walk up there just about every summer. Every Sunday, I meant. Wasn't no problem getting around because we walked everywhere we went. I mean, they'd always be half a dozen kids tagging along, you know. Throwed rocks and did everything else.
Where did you go to school?
Next door. and then up there at the other school right there below where I live at. The Windway Center up here, you know where it's at? Okay, I live in the next house above the Windway Center.
Okay.
And I went to school at right there where the Windway Center used to be at. And I first went to school right here, this big white house right here next door.
Oh, okay.
On the right.
So was that your elementary school and your middle and high school?
I was right up there
Okay.
to the 11th grade, and then they closed it down, and everybody went to school over to the Watauga High over here.
Okay.
I didn't go over there because I went in service in '65.
Where did you go to school?
Right across the street at the Watauga Consolidated School.
So the black school. And did you go all the way through school there?
Well, the school moved, you know, right before segregation. We had a new school built up on Junaluska, and
Right.
now I think it's Western Youth Network or something, but that was our new school, and at the 11th or 12th grade schools were integrated.
When you were in 12th grade, the
we
school
went
was integrated.
to, the old Watauga High,
Okay.
which is a very, very difficult time.
So how was it difficult?
Well, all our life we had our own school, our own teachers, our own programs. We had all kind of talent shows and plays, and I do have some pictures for some of those school days. But when we went there, we didn't have a school. We were just a part of that school, and we were an unwelcome part of that school. So it was very difficult. Many people dropped out of school. It was just too stressful, too horrible to be there. The teachers didn't want us there. The students didn't want us there. So we had a rough time.
Do you remember any specific things that happened to you?
Well, I remember being in a classroom. I never opened my mouth for anything because there was always these other students, I'm not going to say white, but they were all white, but they made fun of us, and you heard nigger a lot. The teachers were very, they just didn't care about us. I think they were made to do it, but they didn't do it happily.
I was when I went from the 10th to the 11th grade. I started my 11th grade over here at Watauga High.
I see. And how was that transition?
It wasn't it wasn't smooth.
It wasn't.
No.
Uh-huh.
No.
So what kind of problems did you run
Oh
into?
God. I was expelled so many times over there. People, these guys would be working on the street down there, doing sidewalks right along in there, and I walked through there so much they said, "You going home again, are you?" You know, it's just that bad.
Was it fights?
Yeah, well, it was probably 12, maybe 12 or 15 black children, and then there were kids from the whole county who went to the high school, they're
Right.
white kids, and actually the transition was really good in a sense, I guess. Some kids, I don't know, some just got singled out and picked on a little bit. I was one of them. You go to the bathroom and have to fight in and fight out. And I was stubborn. I was a stubborn man. I was a stubborn young kid too. I wouldn't have nobody tell me I couldn't go in a bathroom. I worked down here in Perkinsville, and at the time I was living, me and my wife and children were living actually in that old school on Church Street. They turned it into 2 apartments.
Right.
And I was living there and walking from there all the way down to Perkinsville every day to work. But I didn't have a car, didn't have anything.
That's a lot of miles.
That's a lot of miles. Walk down there and walk down there and try to get a ride back. Sometimes it would be dark when I get home. And we fuel with cold heat. And that used to be a coal yard there where the funeral home is.
Oh yeah.
And he would set me a bag of coal on that concrete pad right there beside that telephone pole. He would set me a 100-pound bag of coal there, and I would pick it up and carry it from there all the way back up to Church Street every day.
Gosh.
And that was enough coal to last till the next afternoon when I pick up another bag. $1 a bag, So
Wow.
yeah, I carry that bag of coal up that hill.
So
every
you had
day.
a coal
stove, yeah, coal
in
stove.
the house. And did you cook
kids
on the
was-
stove too?
No, not on a coal stove. We had an electric stove for that.
So when you started seeing the stuff on TV about Martin Luther King, and did you have a TV? Not
Yeah.
Did you? You had
Yeah,
TV.
we had one of those in Dallas.
Oh
I was
wow!
a town girl.
Yeah. So when you started seeing the stuff about the race, the race relations and the marches and stuff, what did y'all think when you would see the stuff on TV?
It was astonishing
Because why?
because we weren't raised up in that environment, and then just see people watered down with water hose and dogs, grabbing them and hitting law officers, hitting them with sticks. It was just astonishing to me to have to watch that type of thing go on and feel so helpless with it.
Right.
Yeah, and had never experienced any of that type of cruelty. So I was shocked by it.
What did you guys? What did your parents? What did your mom and dad think of Martin Luther King?
They really thought that he was what was going to get us out of this situation that we were in. And I can remember Mama's words were always to us growing up, and even as we got older, don't ever judge a person by the color of their skin, the length of their hair, and what kind of clothes they have on, because there's more to them than that. There's a soul and heart and a body that goes way beyond that, and that has always been my way of thinking.
Have any special roles in the Mennonite Church?
I was in the Sunday school. I was in the youth group. My mother and her sisters ran a youth group, which was highly controversial at the time. Oh yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Mennonites didn't do that?
Women weren't allowed to do very much at all.
So this was Roberta and Sandy who were running
Roberta,
this.
Sandy, and Louise, yeah. And we were called the Whirly Birds, and we had these little beanies that had little propellers on top of them. Whirly Birds for Jesus. I remember that. Oh my gosh.
That's interesting. So where did they get this idea to do a youth group?
It was material, a packet of material that they found. I think they sent off art. Sandy and my mom have always been pretty progressive about sending off and education and learning and that kind of stuff. So they sent away for it. I think they paid for it out of their own pockets, and we would meet on Sundays. And I remember only the bad kids didn't go to Sunday service. So we had Sunday night service, and the kids had their youth group downstairs. So I think at one time they had 20, 25, 30 kids in the group.
Wow.
Yeah, it's quite a few.
Mm-hmm. So it may have been controversial, but it was very popular.
Yes, it was. Very well received, and we learned a lot. I mean, it was almost like equivalent to Bible school, like they have now, but it was all year long. It was a year-long program.
Yeah. Did you read the Bible?
We did. We studied. We learned verses. We read the Bible. So I think once the elders or the church saw that this was not just some little fluffy program, that we were actually learning things, and they were all for it. But I think, and someone else may correct me, I don't remember the Lenore churches having the youth group until we started ours. I think they patterned theirs off of what they saw for our youth.
Huh.
And for as long as I can remember, we've always had a choir. But there was an age limit, so we had a children's choir. We could sing with children, but we didn't sing very often. We didn't perform very often.
Huh.
But we had to be 11 years old before we could join the choir.
So when you turned 11, did you join the choir?
Yes. Well, I think that year we waited because Tanya was 9 months younger than the rest of us, Tanya and Kelly. So we all waited and joined together. So we were almost 12 when we joined. But Willie Fleming was our choir director, and he brought us all in at the same time.
Willie. Mm-hmm.
I remember being so shy and just staring at the ground the whole time we sang. But I loved it. I just would not look up.
So was this when was Reverend Isbell the pastor?
Mm-hmm. I think so. I know he became pastor in there sometimes, but I remember Reverend Horton, because we did this thing called a rock or a sway, and he did not like it. It was too much like dancing. I remember that was. And my grandmother was always on his side. So, I'd look at her because she sat in the amen corner over there, and I could always tell what he was thinking by the way she was looking. So,
What would you say have been the most important events in your life?
Okay, one would be being the captain of the Pacer team and being the first African American to do so.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that, but that's what teachers told me. I was like, oh, great. And again, I guess just how I shaped that, because I still go back to the high school to this day, people are like, oh my gosh, things just aren't the same. I was like, oh, well, thank you. Things are just so great. Same thing for, I guess, getting my job at Tweetsies one. Being the first African American to be a can-can girl, I had no idea.
Is that right?
Yes, I had no idea. I guess like a physical dancing can-can girl. Because normally there'll be like the Diamond Lil character that just like stands and sings. But not like actual dancer. So that was interesting. And then being the first African American to be a principal role at Studio K's ballet. I was Dorothy when they did Wizard of Oz.
Really?
Yeah, I did not.
Congratulations.
I honestly was like, no, I'll probably play like the witch or something. I don't know. She usually gives like the seniors, the high school seniors, in the spring, the lead roles, because it's like, here's your gift for me. It's your time to shine. And there was only 2 seniors that year. It was myself and another girl, and I was like, oh, she's probably gonna be Dorothy. I was like, I don't even see myself doing that role, but yeah, I was like, oh my god,
that's great.
Yeah, and I got a lot of like emotional parents coming up to me, and like one woman who had adopted a little girl from, oh gosh, where'd you adopt her from? I forgot where she'd adopted her from, but she was just saying that she's like, it's so important for her to see you in this role and know that she can do this too. And I'm like, oh, this hurts my heart.
Thank you. And I have to apologize. I introduced Andrew back there as the person who helped put this together, but it was Hunter Phillips. Confused us. But anyway, very helpful at the Media Center in the library. So, Roberta?
Okay. My portion is to do Junaluska Heritage Association accomplishments. Because I don't think we'd be where we are today if we didn't have the Junaluska Heritage Association. JHA is what we call it today. The JHA was formed in 2011 by members of St. Luke's Episcopal Church and the Junaluska community at the MB Mennonite Brethren Church. I remember the first meeting they had, I wasn't invited. But you know me, I made my way to members of the Boone community and ASU have also participated in the organization. We really are proud of that association. The JJ has accomplished some major things since its founding. Number one, with grants from the Episcopal Diocese of Western North Carolina, we have put on 4 Junaluska Jubilees. These were community celebrations honoring Junaluska community leaders and the Boone Mennonite Brethren Church, which was open to the public and meant to increase the visibility of the Black community in Boone. Number 2, we worked on a history project to help residents research their family genealogies and our community history. This resulted in the publication of our book, Junaluska Oral Histories of a Black Appalachian Community. Number 3, in 2017, we dedicated a cemetery marker in the Black section of the Boone Cemetery Church, Boone Cemetery, listing the names of 65 individuals known to be buried there. Prompted by the JHA, the town of Boone cleared and fenced the entire cemetery property and took ownership of it. Also, at our request, the town recently installed landscaping around the JHA cemetery marker. Number 4, in 2021, our book, Junaluska Oral Histories of Black Appalachian Community, was published by McFarland. It has sold more than 6,000 copies and was adopted by the Boone 150 Centennial, as well as ASU's Common Reading Program. Number 5, in 2021, we installed a sign and landscape at Junaluska Cemetery for Junaluska community burials are now held. We also had the county install street signs for the cemetery, and I'm really proud of that because it just takes someone with an idea of something that needs to be done, and I didn't realize that we didn't even have a marker to tell people where the cemetery was. So,
The Clarissa Hill Cemetery.
yeah, Clarissa Hill Cemetery. And that we got that accomplished. I'm proud of that. Number 6, for the last 2 years, ASU archaeologists, Dr. Alice Wright and Cameron Goki, and their students have conducted archaeological surveys and evacuations in the Junaluska community. In October, we will be placing fieldstones on the 165 unmarked graves in the Black section of the Boone City Cemetery. And I don't know whether Alice Wright told me that someone here at the library, she came over, and I don't know if you know who that was, all that had sent people over because they were digging over there at where the chocolate bar used to be.
Yes, a couple weeks back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
I think they showed that information at ASU Founders Day on September the 6th. I don't know exactly where it was because I didn't get to go, but I can find out and let you know if you're interested in going by and seeing that. Because I thought it was great. Number 7, with the help of Dr. Christian Destridge, Baldwin Destridge in the ASU's Department of History and her students, we have upgraded our website, junaluskaheritage.org. Thank you, Kristen. We are currently requesting that the town of Boone create a neighborhood conservation district for Junaluska, which will help protect the neighborhood from excessive rental, occupancy, and parking. These things have increased the visibility of the Junaluska community and its contributions to the town of Boone. We have also helped to protect and preserve the community and to flag, curate, and celebrate its cultural heritage, which is the mission of the JHA. And before I turn it back over, I'd like to introduce the members of JHA. It would be great to have them. Katie Mack. Diane Blaine. Lynn, I think, is outside with the table, with the books and the CD. But she's also a member. Well, we consider everybody in our community as members of JHA. And our pastor is always bragging on the work that we get done for the community. So I just want to say thank you, ladies, for helping. Yes.
What's the population, the size of the community?
Oh, it's not nearly like it used to be. A lot of the younger people have finished school and have gone other places to live. Two of my sons, well, one of them lives in Florida now, and the other one is in Charlotte. But all the people, if you ever talk to anybody who's grown up in this community, they always say, we'll go home, because we consider Boone and the Junaluska community as our home. So right now, I would say there's a lot of empty houses. I'd say no more than 70 people. And it's an older community.
And there are others in the county, elsewhere in the county, that are members of the community but don't actually live in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are they preserving the homes that are not occupied?
Some of them are, and some of them are working on them now because of property assessments have increased as far as what the value of our homes are. So they're trying to increase the looks of the home and renovation of those homes. Now, some of them aren't. Some of them need to be torn down because it is an old community. But we're still proud of our neighborhood.
There were problems with houses not having been built on foundations, for example, 100 years ago, and so on. So that sometimes renovation is not a possibility.
Are they being preserved by photographs?
There was an architectural survey done, I think in 2012, by Margaret, and so that included photographs of virtually all, I think, the buildings in the community, the churches, houses, and so on.
What year did it begin to develop as a community, and what is the origin of the name Junaluska? Well, really, we have no idea. All of a sudden, we were Junaluska. I think it was something that was proclaimed through the town council, but probably from some older members that are no longer here that can verify that idea. But we've been a community for as long as I can remember, and I'm 75, so it's been there a long time.
The earliest recorded historical recording of a Black person in this area is mid-19th century. Cousin brothers, and so it probably is at least that old. But, and in the town of Boone, Jordan Council Jr. was the largest slave owner, and his slaves worked land. His home was right around in this area, his store, and his slaves worked land on this hillside. So it's hard to say how early African Americans may have lived on the
So there
hillside.
were people who already had been living here as slaves. It wasn't connected to the track of the Underground Railroad. I have heard that, but I don't, Virgil used to say
Yeah,
that,
I
but
think it went through here, perhaps. But the, in the book, we lay out the four matriarchs, kind of, most people are descended from. And, I think 3 of those were slaves. But the people themselves also claim, many of them, Native American heritage. And of course, white heritage because of the conditions of slavery.
I have a question for Roberta. Roberta, I'm Megan. I'm Sue's daughter.
Oh,
I don't know if we've
hi.
formally met yet. We were at my mom's retirement party.
Yeah,
That's where I
yeah.
first got to see you speak, and thank you so much. I've heard about all of the interviews, the whole process. Super exciting. And I've actually been thinking a lot about what we could create to make sure that people do have that opportunity to come back and visit. You spoke a bit about the community reducing in number because people are moving and starting families elsewhere. And I have felt that strongly, actually, in my experience being from Blowing Rock, that especially when we lose a family home, if our parents are no longer living or they have moved from the area, our spiritual home is still here. And, psychologically, we yearn to return home, but there often isn't a place to stay. Is there any interest in potentially creating a place where former residents of the Junaluska community could stay free of charge? It's a bigger project, I know, but if that is of interest and there's someone I could start talking with, I would love to work on that with the Junaluska community.
That's great.
Yeah,
You know,
I think, because
that's one of the reasons why we formed JJ. If people had ideas or thoughts on what could improve the community, that we were glad to hear them and we try to work on them. But
should I attend the meeting or I'll just get you my contact information?
okay, okay,
And
great, thank you.
Thank you.
And of course, people can come back to the church,
Yeah,
homecoming or on some, the church is kind of the spiritual center of the community and gathering spot. And so,
yeah.
people do come back, visit relatives, go to church.
Can I would say something about that, because I think that the whole year that we've been celebrating the 150th of Boone, and Junaluska is very much a part of that 150-year history. It's been improved, I think, just in this very short conversation with him here. But I think one of the most successful things that happened during the 150th celebration was in June with the boomerang. And all these children who have left Boone are coming back. There were over 6,000 people who enjoyed that weekend of the boomerang. And Mark Reed was so successful in that, and is already talking about next year and hoping to. And to me, this could be certainly emphasized with the Junaluska community who have migrated away. It's kind for them to remember their movement. And very much a part of this community and its community history. So, in a way, you don't have to invent the wheel; you just have to put it in spoken.
Thank you. That's so true. We had a great time that day.
Yeah.
The streets were blocked off. If you were there, you would have known the number of people that were there, and the choir performed. And we enjoyed it. We enjoy being a part of it. I think that's the thing about the community is we want to be a part of things. You know, so the invitation, we usually accept them.
I'm not gonna talk a little directly about Junaluska. Going back a little bit, I've done a little bit of research. The blacks in this country go way back. They go back before the Revolutionary War. And there were slaves that were freed. Many communities, mostly northern communities. Philadelphia had a big black population and before the Revolutionary War. And actually, most cities in the West, in this area, accumulated blacks as the whites came. They came together, and I guess the segregation was known in every one of these cities, but it's not something that just happened. It started off with probably a couple of people that came with the whites, and maybe one of them was a slave and one of them was freed, and they were freed very early. Many of them were freed very early, especially in northern areas. And it might have started off with two people in Daniel Boone time, you know, and little by little, and organized into a little city. So it's not something that happened 150 years ago or 200 years ago. It's actually maybe 300 years ago that it was the normal thing. The blacks came with the whites. They maybe 100 whites, maybe 5 or 6 blacks, and it just happened. And each city grew their little population and formed their ghettos, and that's what we have.
Well, and actually there's Spanish explorers, the early Spanish explorers brought slaves.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Are there many people still alive who attended the consolidated schools? And if so, do they have reunions? No, but that's another good idea. Because I attended the school and I was looking at some of the pictures of the people who are no longer alive and the ones that are still alive. So thank you for that idea.
She's the organizer in Wilkes for the Lincoln Heights reunion.
Yeah.
Roberta, you might want to mention the choir's going to sing this Sunday, isn't it?
Tomorrow, week from
A week from tomorrow.
Yeah.
At Horton Hills.
At on the 18th. If it doesn't bring them out. At the garden. Yeah, gosh, 4. Yeah. So unless.
The choir is so dynamic, you cannot sit still. Oh, so good. You gotta handle it.
Yes.
I'm John Ashburn. I'm one of the originals. I'm still alive. I remember growing up in Boone and talking to a fellow named Millard Council, who said that his great grandfather was, he had slaves here. And I said, well, how many? He said, according to his grandfather, he remembered him very well. He had 6 slaves. He said nobody had much more than that. So it's a very low level of slavery. And he filled me in a little bit on the history, more than this book, really, as to names and so on. And I had the opportunity, I think, his minister named Rock Hatton, I believe, real nice fellow. And of course, being white, I just thought these people were dark. And we had, the Phillips were Muscalons, I called them, not knowing the name exactly. And I found that out later. They had Spanish, Negro, Indian, and white blood. And in the same family, they were different colors.
Yes.
But they were absolutely, the women were the prettiest women I ever saw. And they had blue eyes, some of them, beautiful women. And anyway, if you want to hear more about this, Monday, the third Monday, which I think is the 19th, we're going to have a meeting here, and we're going to have some stories about Boone and growing up in Boone. And my aunt and uncle had a business here. They took photographs. They ran a photo shop, and they took pictures of people all over the Northwest. And their photographs are over in the library now. And you probably know who I'm talking about. And my first, actually double first cousin, people were real close back then. They donated, I believe, postcards and so on, and pictures. And they're over in the library also. And most of them are buried in the Boone, I call it the Boone Cemetery. I don't know his official name for it. But if you want to know really about early Boone and some of the leaders here and so on, show up September the 19th, the third Monday of every month. We're going to have storytelling. And you're certainly invited. Thank you.
Is that the library here or ASU?
Right here in this room.
At what time?
6:30.
Thank you.
You mentioned the move to speak with the town of Boone about protecting the Junaluska neighborhood. How far has that process kind of come along? And have you heard anything back from the town about that yet?
Yeah, they approved moving forward with a public hearing. So they've drawn the lines of the neighborhood conservation district. So there's a map, and they're going to send flyers to all of the addresses in that area. And the public hearing will probably be in November. That's what they said. They haven't set a date. Diane?
Maybe share where they can get the book if they don't have a copy.
Yeah, I did Lynn ever?
Yeah,
Lynn is here, she's outside. Gotcha. Okay, she has a table outside, the book, copies of the book for sale, and acquired CD. Yeah. But it's also available on Amazon and of course from the publication of Barley Fetch. And at the logging line. Any other questions? Well, we'll stick around for a little while if anybody wants to talk to us individually, but thank you all for coming out on this rainy day. Appreciate that, and we're glad you told me it was enjoyable.